What is your craziest surprise or guess moment? Not my story, but a friend's who is a nurse. Younger lady needs to have a catheter put in. She's tall, blonde, good looking. They're struggling to get it in because she's tightening up her muscles so much. Having to have one person pulling apart her legs and another trying to get the catheter in. Anyways, after a lot of struggling, they finally get it in. Couple days later, the nurse is at Starbucks and is having coffee with her friend. Over her shoulder she hears two girls chit-chatting and catches some of their conversation. One of the girls is talking about how she had a catheter put in the other day, but that she orgasmed 3 times while they were trying to put it in and it was the most awkward experience ever. Nursing friend turns around and lo and behold, it's the girl from the other day. I was on a drug to help me pass kidney stones. I'm rubbing one out and orgasm and nothing. It was like the scene from There's Something About Mary. I'm looking around, where did it go? I felt it, but nothing came out. That's when I learned about retrograde ejaculation. The drug loosened my plumbing up enough that I shot a load into my bladder instead. I pissed it out an hour later mixed with urine. A friend of mine was running a Spartan race or one similar and said there was an electric field set up, and when she ran through that she came almost instantly. Finally, a story I can tell. I have a tendency to sit on this rather hard chair at work when I'm on the till. I sit in such a position that it makes my nethers go numb and dead to all feeling, so I don't always realize it. Like your arm or your leg would. Anyway. One day a customer comes up to me to buy something and I have to stand up, of course. You know that tingly feeling you get when you're trying to get your leg to wake up? Imagine that, but within the vicinity of your genitals. It's not as nice as it sounds, but my body didn't care. I stared the sky in the face and cried no. But I passed it off as pain. And hopefully not pleasure, and carried on with my duty feeling quite embarrassed. The night we got together, my boyfriend was rubbing the bottom of my ass, where cheek meets thigh, and I came. It was literally out of nowhere and shocked the hell out me. I still don't think he believes me. But why would I fake it? Physical therapy. A machine. Doing crunches. Had an orgasm right there and learned that orgasms are 100% a thing and are quite embarrassing. Back in college I was getting ready for class but couldn't find any clean underwear, so I put on some stretchy lycra gym shorts under my jeans. Well, that was a dumb idea because the lycra fabric was giving me a boner as I walked to my first class. After that class ended, I went to get something to eat and walked to my next class on the other side of campus and wound up blowing my load just before I got to the building my class was in. The worst part was I was hiding my boner by pinning down my DCKing the waistband of my jeans and got cum on both the jeans and shirt I was wearing. Edit. Fixed my grammar. Was writing a test and I realized I missed a 25-mark question when they said 5 minutes left. I went cold with fear. That spine-chilling fear that went straight to my JJ. Had an orgasm, but my friends didn't believe me. I dated a girl that had this very badly. Like something was cross-wired and she would get horny and orgasm from shock, stress, and fear. First time I met her, we were all over at a friend's house watching the original Scream on VHS. Before Drew Barrymore died in the opening scene, this girl jumps up and runs to the bathroom. All the friends that knew her started chuckling and I was like, WTF. So they explained it to me. She was insanely cute, so I started flirting with her and we ended up as an item for a year. Just jumping out from behind a door and going boo would be enough for her to yank me into a closet. We broke up because I moved away for school. Miss her crazy ass. This didn't happen to me but to a friend. She said she got into a truck with one of her friends and wanted to show her the bass. She said she could feel the bass through the seats, and because there was so much ducking bass she had an orgasm. Making out with boyfriend while naked. Dog bursts through door at a sprint. I jump up and ejaculate from fear. Basically if I were a squid. Sitting in a pub having a chat over a pint. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a how's your day been kind of chat when my body decided that I needed to try and create a baby there and then. No warning. No erection. No build up, just sploosh. No idea why it happened and never happened again. It was the weirdest thing in the world and caught me completely off guard. Bucky pours a good head then. I discovered how to masturbate on a biking trip with my mom and dad. I was riding and the seat kept vibrating and rubbing against my clit and it felt super good. I was 13. So when we got back to the hotel I played around with myself in the bathroom and got myself to come for the first time. My parents were literally in the other room. Kill me. Okay, but after that I was a masturbating maniac and even masturbated in a dressing room at Sears. I've gotten control of myself now. Don't worry. The first time I tried edging. I did that for a long time, rubbing it in front of a cam. Camming with multiple people. On Omegle, or was it the other one? They I stood up to stretch. And came so hard I almost fell unconscious. I actually managed to come all over my table and keyboard. I went 6 hours and actually did pass out. God bless America. I'm a girl. At that time I had only done anal a few times and it didn't feel good because I was too tense. Me and my BF did anal again in another position and it did feel okay. Suddenly I got a really intense orgasm. My vision went all black and I was just staring into an abyss. It was an extremely intense orgasm that came out of nowhere and I felt slight nausea afterwards. I've also had many orgasms in dreams, mostly where I dreamt I masturbated. I was once seeing a dominant man who would edge me along and count down to when I was allowed to finally orgasm. Fast forward a few months later to the last day before Christmas break with my middle school students. It's the final class on Friday. And they decide to count down the time left on the clock. They started at 20. 15. I could feel myself being turned on. 10. I thought, oh no. Apostrophe. 7. Please no. Apostrophe. 5. Is this really happening? Apostrophe. 3. This is really happening. Apostrophe. 2. Control your reaction. Apostrophe. 1. These little shits need to get the hell out of here. Apostrophe. 0. Blast off. Semicolon. I still feel pretty weird about it. But yeah. Pavloved. I hate every person in this thread. Brush against your thigh. Orgasm. Poop. Orgasm. Doing crunches. Orgasm. Meanwhile I'm over here with my 30-minute ritual of finding good PRN. Not finding anything good. Settle for something mediocre. Then spending the next 10 minutes furiously beating it until I get a half-asser, then hate myself afterward. Was 17 and had been having sex with my boyfriend for about a year. Had my first orgasm while just riding him like always. Backseat of his car. Completely unexpected and by surprise. It was the first time I realized what an orgasm is supposed to feel like. I had had ones from clitoral stimulation. But this was different. Why are I different? He got mad because obviously I had been faking it the whole time. It was very difficult to explain to him that sex can feel good without having an orgasm. The first roller coaster I ever rode was Wild Thing at Valley Fair in Minnesota. A surprise orgasm hit me during the first drop. I've been an avid roller coaster fan ever since. First time I came not from myself, aka my BF did all the work. He fingered me to completion. And it was a pretty good orgasm. I half sat up. Was just recovering from it. He pushed me down and just went for it again. It went from wait what? To oh my god super strong orgasm in 5 seconds flat. I still have no idea what happened. Edit. Thanks guys. My orgasm story is now my top voted comment. Good times. When I first started taking Strattera, a type of ADHD medication, it had some side effects that I was not prepared for. The first time I went to rub one out while on it I started to blow my load without the feeling of orgasm. Just nothing but a mess. A little disturbed and more than a little disappointed. I cleaned up and pulled my pants back up. Then a few seconds later the orgasm hit me and I was not prepared. I had no idea that ejaculation and the sensation of orgasm could occur separately. Fortunately things got back in sync after some time. My pull-out game was straight duck there for a while though. Removed. I have two. One from finishing my first and only 10-mile run. My legs went completely numb. 15 or 16 years old. Riding a motorbike around the back of our property. Ducked something up and found myself heading for a tree. Thankfully managed to steer myself back on course in the nick of time. Realized that in the space of those few seconds I became so tense that a little bit of cum came out. What a time it is to be alive. Sitting on the couch in my basketball shorts. Went to scratch my DCK and then ballum. I was super shocked. Not me but my now so. We were 18 in college and it was our first time hooking up. We weren't dating yet. Had just met a couple weeks ago and both wanted to duck. He told me he had been having consistent sex since age 13. Lasted a long time. Was super experienced. Had already ducked 22 girls. All the girls orgasmed with him etc. Needless to say I was pretty eager to see if he was really all that. He arrived at my dorm. Grabbed me. And started intensely making out with me. We move to the bed and get naked. He grabs his DCK to put it in and before he can even do that. Insta comes on my thigh, his hand the bed. He freezes. Sits back on his heels. And wordlessly stares at his DCK in his hand. An uncomfortable 10 seconds later I choke down the urge to laugh and ask. What happened? Are you done already? He looks back at me red with embarrassment and says no. I'm not done. He gets hard again and we actually duck for a good 8-10 minutes or so. We are married now. I knew I could share something interesting here. Twice. I experienced a spontaneous orgasm. The first time I was on my way to buy some food and the second time was right before a singing lesson. I was particularly confused during that class but my teacher congratulated me. So I guess I should masturbate more often before singing? It didn't have any effect on the grocery shopping thing. Though. In the gym. On one of those thigh abductor machines. Thigh abductor. Did you get your thighs back? One time when I was with my ex. I was blowing him and I had music playing. The music switched over to 97 Octane by Diesel Boy. The first track of the album is a sample of the countdown from one of the Gemini missions. And he blew right at liftoff. Not exactly a surprise because there was a countdown to it. But probably the most notable orgasm I have experienced to date. I'm female BTW. I had a wet dream once. Which I didn't know girls could have. That was cool. I am shocked about these revelations about exercise. I never knew. It wasn't as much of a surprise orgasm but what happened after. I was getting ducked from behind and he hit a really good spot. I came. I started hyperventilating. Laughing and crying at the same time. It was like a body reset in a weird way. Everything felt so insanely good that I didn't know how to react to it. To all the emotions. When I lost my virginity. I was sheltered. Had PSS poor sex ed. And had never actually fully masturbated. I knew it felt good. But I honestly didn't know there was anything more. The very first time I ever came was in my girlfriend. It honestly scared the shit out of me. I had no idea that would happen. And was not physically or mentally prepared for it. It felt like my brain exploded while I pissed myself. All I remember after that moment was her asking if I was okay. And me spending a few minutes catching my breath. Once I was using a gas-powered weed whacker to cut the grass in my yard. I had it held against the right side of my hip for leverage and I squeezed it to full power for a couple of seconds. The intense vibration against my hip bone vibrates and for a second my entire pelvis goes numb. Then sort of a strong sensation from inside makes me nearly drop the thing and makes me legs a little wobbly and I have to stop for a second to regain my balance. I had my first full body orgasm with my boyfriend. I was on my back on top of him on his back, holding onto the bed railing. Suddenly I felt what can only be described as my energy receding from my hands down my arms. I couldn't hold onto the railing anymore. I saw my hands fall but didn't feel it. My limbs and face went numb and my eyes rolled back as I just fell limp. I was shocked when it ended and I became fully aware again. God, I wish that could happen again. Not me, but my brother. He was visiting a private peep show booth in Seattle and as he was leaving, he stuck his finger in the coin return slot to see if anything was in there. There was. And it wasn't money. So I guess you could say he was definitely surprised by some other dude's orgasm. I was having a lucid dream. And before me was a huge majestic tree. I started losing control of the dream as I started to float without a sense of any flight controls, but I was still upright. That's when I noticed I was naked and masturbating. As I rose to the top of the tree and looked down in a pov shot from the top, 40 ft large widespread branches. In auto sprinkler fashion, I had the largest, longest, and most powerful orgasm I've ever experienced. Completely covering the entire tree with cum. American Beauty. Any dream orgasm that wakes me up. When I was in like grade 2, I was playing lava tag with the other kids on the playground. To avoid touching the ground, I was running up a slide but I started slipping down it because it's metal and low friction. So I tried to create friction by straddling the side of the slide. It was very quick and sudden, but I orgasmed by the time I hit the bottom. This then opened up a whole new world for me. I began randomly grinding my genital region against random objects. Rounded objects like the corner of a couch or a desk were the best. Unfortunately, it wasn't until 4 years later that my mom realized what I was doing and freaked out at me and said to never do that in public. Still got 4 years of getting off in class under my belt before then. It literally took 30 seconds to 2 minutes of grinding on the side of a desk to get the effect too. Dirty thoughts helped, so I was well on my way to becoming a dirty girl by the time I hit junior high. This is why slides should be removed from playgrounds. Due to a spinal cord injury, my nervous system is all mixed up. Every time I put cold water on my feet, like in the beginning of a shower, I have an orgasm. There is no other way for me to get SL release. You must love swimming. I was 17. Just lost my virginity, but I still had no idea what I was supposed to feel. My then BF was rubbing my clit and a couple minutes later I just splooshed all over both of us. It was like a water balloon busted in my pants. He gave me some shorts to wear so I didn't have to wear my soiled ones. Duck it. I've had a few drinks. I was having sex with a very adventurous kinky girl for the second time. We were missionary and as she was coming screamed spit on my ducking face. Full stop. I did and came pretty much instantly as well. I'm kind of ashamed of how much it turned me on. She loved it too. I've been sexually active since my teens but only had a handful of real orgasms. Not a single one since my daughter was born in 2017 and I needed multiple reconstruction surgeries. I figured that I was broken. Until I went to La Ronde here in Montreal. Went on a roller coaster called the Vampire, where instead of a traditional coaster where you're in a cart that sits on a track, this coaster has hanging seats that you are suspended from on a track above your head. As the coaster was coming to a juddering shock, I did the same. Was coastering with a good friend of the opposite sex and he was holding my hand. According to him, he asked if I was alright because I had a weird look on my face. My response was to snatch my hand back and snarl out, "Don't ducking touch me right now." Oops. At least I'm not broken. Okay, so I've tried to look this up and have turned up no results. Back when I lived with a friend, we shared a room. One morning, I was laying on my bed while he was passed out on the other side of the room. I was still sort of in morning wood mode. So I was laying on my stomach just sort of barely rocking back and forth to ease the pressure. I started to stretch. An intensely pleasurable feeling came over me. So naturally I stretched wider. From my Johnson up to my stomach almost felt like butterflies and the feeling was getting ever more intense. Stretched a little bit further. And all of a sudden I started to come and it felt better than 90% of the orgasms I've had in my life. I had an impromptu laundry day that day. I still have no idea what kind of muscles I was stretching. But I haven't been able to recreate it yet. The first time my husband went down on me. Genuinely didn't expect to get off. No partner before had ever been able to make it happen. So I was pretty meh about receiving oral. Within 10 minutes I was clutching at the sheets and coming. 10/10. Runner up is the first time I gave my husband a BJ while using a vibrator on myself. I'd never had a toy get me off before. But something about the combination of him ducking my mouth along with the insane external stimulation from Nora was explosive. 9. First time I came, the shock of the orgasm that I didn't expect caused my arm to jerk. I ripped my foreskin. And the combined pain and orgasm was so intense I started hallucinating. I was aware that there wasn't a window on that wall. It was the other wall. But I was convinced there was a window there. And I was looking out of it. How do you delete someone's comment? Wasn't my first time watching PRN. But it was the first time I actually sorted out and knew what I was looking at. Just instant. The very first time I came. I didn't know about this stuff at first. I didn't have a good sex ed. It just felt good to keep rubbing my boner. Then all of a sudden sticky white stuff came out of my DCK. I was like, WTF just happened? What an appropriate username. Not me. But someone I know. They had an orgasm as their parachute was pulled during skydiving. I did the 2-pump jump with my wife once. Does that count? Look at this show off with his 2 pumps. Had a small, not earth-shattering, orgasm once doing intense cardio. It was neat. Really encourages me to work out more. The very first time I came. I was watching PRN in my room one day when I had the sudden urge to just start randomly jacking off to it. It felt like my DCK was gonna explode. For the longest time I had no clue what you were supposed to do after getting turned on by PRN. Back when I used a Uber, I was parked in an apartment complex waiting for my passengers. The urge to poo was coming and going and I was doing my best to keep it under control so I could get to a restroom as soon as I dropped this last ride off. For whatever reason, I suddenly experienced the most intense orgasm I have ever had. All without touching myself. My immediate thought afterward was, did I just have an orgasm? I was incredibly confused but also glad my passengers had not yet come outside to get in my car. I would not have been able to be quiet. I was probably 12 or so when I was reading this book series called Clan of the Cave Bear. I'm guess my mom didn't realize quite how graphic they were when she suggested I read them. But starting in the second book there were some very intense and detailed sex scenes. One evening I was reading in bed and all of a sudden I felt this unfamiliar whoosh muscle contraction feeling that hit me like a freight train and scared me half to death. It wasn't bad. Just unexpected. With my heart racing I put down the book and decided to call it a night. Years later I realized it was my first orgasm that I had somehow brought myself to without any physical contact at all. Amazing.